Yo, what's up guys? Tuna here. Today's video I wanted to showcase my build so far, which is my League Starter, Hyper Shark of Mamba, and sort of detail my progression and how it went overall, and kind of show you guys my items and that kind of stuff just before, we start getting into some really expensive upgrades, because I'm kind of at that crossroad at the moment. So this is intended as somewhat of a snapshot for anybody who wants to follow the build. Let me premise this by saying both the pneumatic dagger version and the mana version using Whispers of Infinity are very comparable in both DPS as well as defenses. They both achieve very similar numbers. It's just one way to do one thing and another, right? So they're just different variations of the same thing. Although I do have to say that the mana variant does tend to be a little bit more expensive because of the clusters as well as the amulet, and it also has a higher ceiling once you start putting crazy amounts of currency into it. Another thing to mention is that this league, it's very easy to craft gear because of the tree and that kind of stuff, which actually kind of makes mana inch a little bit forward as opposed to the pneumatic version, because you can sort of start getting a little bit of damage out of prefixes on your gear. I wanted to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Exelag. Exelag is a software that is designed to reduce ping, latency, and mitigate the risks of disconnect during online games. It has a lot of tools to improve your connectivity and essentially route you through the correct servers to get the lowest ping possible. So I currently live in Italy, and I have a server down the road that is Milano. It's about like a half an hour drive from where I live, but it seems that I actually get fairly bad ping to the server for some reason. And what that ends up feeling like in game is that my gameplay feels a bit sluggish, and I have times where load times are really slow and all of that kind of stuff. Exelag actually improves this. So what I can do is I can go to connections here, and I can add my video game, and I can search for Path of Exile. And of course, they have thousands and thousands of games that you can choose from here. But of course, I'm going to be choosing Path of Exile, and you can see that I'm collecting from Milano. And we're going to just re-optimize this because it's going to reanalyze the routes. It's also going to be disconnecting us from the game. But once you have done this, this is going to essentially set your routes for the best kind of like latency that you can get to the Path of Exile servers specifically. And they have routes that are very tailored to the games that you're trying to play. And you can be sure to find the list of games and all that kind of stuff on their website for you to actually optimize the game that you're playing. All right, so once you have found your routes, we're going to be applying routes here. And that is going to be applying our connection. And once you have done that, you're going to be disconnected from your game, but we can see that we can kind of measure the latency difference. Once we're back in game, we can see the IP of the server itself, what we're connecting to. So you can see that we're connecting to Milano, and we can see also our latency, the up, down, and our ping. So we currently have about 25 to 24 ping, which is about 10 ms difference between before we applied the exit lag connection. So exit lag is now also just making sure that that's keeping us as packet loss free as possible. And if you go to the home page here, that is going to be giving us a breakdown of our connection and all of that kind of stuff, how much packet loss, our average ping, the jitters, and anything like that. And you can always use their optimization tools to make this better. So if this sounds interesting at all, make sure you check out exit lag and the description of this video, because they are giving you guys a 50% offer for 1 year subscriptions. So that is a 50% off of 1 year subscriptions. And thank you very, very much to ExitLag for sponsoring this video. And thank you, ExitLag, for making my connection through the spaghetti wires that Italy provides a little bit better. I appreciate it. So I'll preface this by just showing you guys my gear, what I have right now. So this is my first dagger. It's just fractured mana with chaos.multi, chaos damage, and then multi-modded from there. This is my other dagger. It's just a mana fracture as well with chaos, as well as attack speed and chaos.multi. My chest is just going to be high defenses with mana, as well as suppress and some resistances. Like, this stuff looks crazy, but this chest I bought for 4 divines. This helmet, it's again pretty crazy one. Triple res, mana, life. My gloves are just going to be suppression, dexterity, resistance, and life as well. And my belt is, sorry, my boots are movement speed, mana, as well as some chaos resistance and that kind of stuff. So you're basically looking at like generic evasion energy shield gear with suppression wherever possible to cap out at 100%, of course. and also with resistances, chaos res, and that kind of stuff. Now, I went overboard on the amount of chaos res that I need. I have over 100 because of the Light of Meaning, but this is sort of what it looks like right now. For rings as well, we just go for on the right ring, the Chavron's Revelation, because that gives us an absolute shit ton of mana. We're at like 4,000 right now. Take that off, it's like 3,000. Actually, that took off my chest as well, so it gives you a lot of mana. And I'll go into this by showcasing what a T17 looks like. So this is going to be a T17 with damage as well as this is extra. So we'll see how we handle the boss, but it should be fine. Fingers crossed. And as I do that, I'll just talk a little bit about the build and how it performs. So Mamba as a League starter is amazing. I think it's one of the best League starters I've ever played in Path of Exile. I think like there's a common misconception that this build needs a lot of gear before it starts being really good. And although it may seem that way by looking at PoB, because of the fact that like clusters as well as gear really makes this build go crazy, right? Like it really does. Every upgrade is insanely substantial in the amount of damage that it gives you. Like one low tolerance cluster will give you like 30% damage, for example, and they just like multiply each other, so your damage kind of goes pretty crazy. But the thing is, like, it's still really comparable or strong even without those upgrades. And it also feeds into what I think makes this build so good, is that every upgrade means a lot, right? So like you will be upgrading your character and you will definitely feel it as you upgrade it. So, you know, you get your low tolerance clusters, that kind of stuff, and you're definitely going to be feeling like a lot stronger than before at every step of the way. Also, it just has some items that synergize so well with the build. For example, the Tides of Time is just insane because it gives you 100% increased life recovery rate from flasks, as well as some utility charges. Lets you go for increased effect on your flasks, and it lets you craft an insane life flask, which synergizes with Master Surgeon. And as you can see here, I'm pretty much recovering like my HP back every time something hits me. So on the boss here, I will just sort of stand still and hope that the increased damage, more damage multipliers on the map do not you know, destroy me. I'm really hoping that's the case, but yeah, you can see that it does pretty good damage, and it just tanks everything. It just doesn't care. Like, you can just literally tank everything in the game. It's so comfortable, and that is because of a lot of stacking damage reductions that we currently have on the character, including the fact that we have Fortify, we have also, you know, Flesh and Stone. We're gonna have a Purity of Ice as well, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and yeah, all of that kind of stuff that really adds up to make a really tanky character. And it's really comfortable to farm with. You know, it is a melee character, so you will have to walk up to things, but because of the proliferation, you're able to have like really good clear as well. So, you know, you hit one monster and then the packs just around you just kind of start melting. It's really comfortable at farming pretty much any mechanic that has density, so it does really well with expeditions. It does really well with you know, the cloister farm, blight, harvest as well, even just like general T17 farming, as you can see, since the layouts are not like super wide and open and monsters are packed together. So it does pretty well in the current Path of Exile meta as well. So like if you want to do boxes and that sort of stuff, it's really good at that as well. Additionally, it does insanely well versus elemental damage because of the Taste of Hate. The Taste of Hate allows me to essentially shift a lot of the elemental damage that I would take into cold, and I further improve that by using a Watcher's Eye that gives 20% extra, 19% of fire and lightning taken as cold, which, you know, when that's pumped up, I have 88% cold resistance maximum. So we're taking 71% or 70%, I believe, because of the 75% increased flask effect that I get on this flask. 70% increased total of fire and lightning damage taken as cold. And since we have 88 maximum cold res, you know, that means that we're taking a lot less elemental damage. And there are alternatives to doing this, like melding, and also, yeah, just going for a tri-elemental flask. But the reason why... Oh, what did I miss here? The reason why I didn't do that is because I like flasks, right? So I want to be able to use flasks. So for example, like Quicksilver, a Quartz, and eventually I'll be swapping the Quartz out for a Progenesis. Progenesis, by the way, makes this character go... Like, if you think this is tanky, like, Progenesis makes my character like 40% tankier, basically. Like, it's insane how much tankier it makes you. That flask is pretty much made for Pathfinder. So that's what it looks like to clear a map. I have to say it's like very, very comfortable. As long as you keep your life flask up, so like I press it on spacebar and you keep that up, you're not really gonna have to be worrying too much since you're getting flask charges back all the time. Even just like spamming it is totally fine. So yeah, the build feels really comfortable to map with. Feels tanky, has good damage, all of the above, right? So it's been a really fantastic league starter, and if that hasn't sold you, then I don't know what will. But in any case, now I'll talk a little bit about how to itemize the character and some tips and trips and stuff like that. So first of all, I think this graft combination is just mandatory on almost every build now. So Heart of the Flame, Molten Zoth graft. This one gives you a massive shield of 4,000 damage, and yeah, you take 80% of the damage from hits onto that shield. So, you know, you have a 4,500 shield on top of your already massive life pool, which is comprised of both your HP as well as your energy shield, which is constantly regenerating thanks to the combination of Master Surgeon, Life Flask, as well as Sorrow of the Divine. Because Sorrow of the Divine specifically states that life recovery rate from flasks also applies to energy shield during the effect. So that this combo is what makes our energy shield and HP go crazy. And then I talked about Taste of Hate as well in the combination with the Watcher's Eye. So Taste of Hate will make you take 70% of incoming fire and lightning damage as cold, and we can pump up our maximum cold resistance as high as possible. You know, we can get that to 80 as well if we were to be a little bit more diligent with our gear and maybe upgrading our implicits and stuff like that. But yeah, I digress. So we're reducing the elemental damage we take, but on top of that, we also do have Fortify, which takes, you know, 20% damage reduction, and we also do use Immortal Call, cast when damage taken. And the nice thing is that with Heart of Flame, Immortal Call, cast when damage taken, it cycles between these, because Immortal Call cannot proc while you have Heart of Flame active, because it counts as a guard skill. Now, this is a downside for certain builds, but for our build, it's an upside because that allows us to sort of cycle between having the Heart of Flame shield and the Immortal Call. So you will take damage to your Heart of Flame shield, it will go down, and then your Immortal Call will proc. While it's proccing, it will incur its cooldown, and while it's in its cooldown, you still have like somewhat of damage reduction. And then that is further, sort of the reduction is further amplified by Perverting Stillness, which you can see here, which is another buff, which when you inflict exposure gives you a massive elemental damage shield. This elemental damage shield is pretty reliable for us because of the fact that we use the Spell Suppression Mastery, which when you inflict cold, lightning, and fire exposure, when you suppress spell damage. So yeah, you're gonna have to be suppressing spell damage for that to work. So any boss that has any sort of like spells, you're gonna have this active and it's gonna proc the shield. So between all of these things, like these damage reductions, that's why we end up feeling so tanky. And then we have Avoidance as well. So we have like a little bit of evasion rating. You can see 60%, and that's without grace or anything crazy like that. And that is gonna be, of course, with our Quartz Flask with % increased evasion on it though. So yeah, we have 60% increased evasion, which gives us a bit of time to recover in between hits. And our recovery is comprised of basically like 2,500 plus life and energy shield recovery per second, which is propped up by the tattoos for recovery, as well as the Tides of Time. And yeah, so it just makes like a pretty insanely tanky package. Then on top of that, we also use Flesh and Stone, makes us take 20% less damage for enemies within the aura, which is this circle here you can see. And since we're like a true melee build, like we're gonna be walking up the bosses and that kind of stuff, this damage reduction is up for the most part when you need it. So that's kind of our defensive package and why we feel so strong. But for offensive package, in this situation, I am using a Whispers of Infinity. And the Whispers of Infinity grants me added flat chaos damage per 100 maximum mana. And the most important role on the Whispers of Infinity is this, as well as the reduced mana. You want to get those, one as maximum and the other as minimum as possible. So you can see here I got an 825 roll. 1025 would be like 6% more damage over this one. And also the reduced mana, 40%, because we want to be getting our mana as high as possible. You see, I got almost 4,000 mana at this point, which means that we're getting an absolute shit ton of added flight chaos from this. So if we actually just do the calculation, I am getting 9 plus 30. That's 39. And then we're going to be dividing by 2, 19.5. Then we're going to multiply that by the amount of maximum mana we have. So in this case, we have 3,900. So we're going to be taking our, that divided by 100. So the easy way to do this would just be like, 3,900 divided by 100. 39, and then we multiply this by, as I said earlier, the number was 19. So that's a total of 741 added flat chaos damage to our build from our mana. So that's where we get this crazy number, and you can see like that's like this is a crazy number, man. T1 chaos on weapon rolls up to 160, and the averages are like 85 plus 160. Divided by 2, so the average is like 122 per weapon. But yeah, it's like wearing like 6 weapons or something. So it's a lot of flat damage that you get from this amulet, and that's why it's so strong. But the pneumatic version allows you to get substantially more damage on the daggers. So you're going to be getting like 500 elemental damage on the daggers, on top of ashes. And ashes grants 30% quality to your Viper Strike of Mamba, and the quality of Viper Strike of Mamba is 40% more damage with poisons. So that's an extra like 50% damage with poisons on top of the more damage that you get from the daggers. Which is why I say that like the difference between pneumatic and mana, especially when it comes to like mid-range investment, is they're pretty much neck and neck. So whether you choose one or the other, that is totally up to you. They're both pretty good. Now, with the mana variant, there are some things that do cost quite a bit of money. So, for example, these medium clusters with Eldritch Inspiration and Low Tolerance, these are impossible to craft. They cost like 4,000 alterations to roll these on your own. So, yeah, getting that combination is really annoying. And I do have this Megalo that gives me 80% increased mana reservation efficiency from Purity of Ice. But the thing about this one is that you can completely drop this Purity of Ice reservation efficiency, and instead you could just put level 3 Enlighten here in your links, and that pretty much fixes all of the reservation needs that you'll have with this build. So instead of using automation on your Withering Step and Blood Rage, you're gonna have to be manually clicking those. And if you put Enlighten level 3 here, that's going to solve your reservation efficiency without needing this crazy Megalo. So getting another medium here instead of that would be advisable. And then for the rest of the gear, it's pretty standard. I do have 2 more reservation clusters here. So one with Mortifying Aspect, which allows me to reduce the mana reservation efficiency of Malevolence, as well as giving me a little bit of stats, as you can see here. Getting Strength on this build is really annoying because of Flesh and Stone, as well as Petrified Blood. Flesh and Stone is actually okay. It's mostly just Petrified Blood giving us 155 requirement. But getting the strength on these small clusters is probably the best place to do it. So I have two of these small clusters, and the second one is going to be giving me more strength, as well as some mana and some energy shield. I can actually like unspec some of these nodes, but for like I have enough reservation efficiency, but I do not have enough strength, unfortunately, as you can see. You want to know more like specifics about the build and all that kind of stuff, there is a planner that is linked into the description of this video, so you guys can take a look at that. We have a full written build guide, of course, for the build, which has been updated for all of the variants, as well as the graphs and that kind of stuff, and also a planner that you guys can follow. So in the planner, you open up the trees, see that we have both the mana version. It's going to give you a nice idea of the current itemization and that kind of stuff. And that's also going to be, not taking into account the fact that I'm using like a crazy Megalo or that kind of stuff. But this video does have a little bit of extra tips and tricks in comparison to this, just because of certain items that you might be able to get, but might not be accessible to the masses, for example. Then we have the pneumatic version as well. That's going to give you the tree and that kind of stuff, and also exemplar gear. You can see here we have the mana version, and then we have the pneumatic version. I wanted to talk specifically about because this has been asked a lot, how to craft the daggers. So unfortunately, the daggers is you can craft them with essences and fractures. So fracturing, for example, T1 mana, T1 chaos, or T1 elemental if you're using a pneumatic. But the best way to craft it, unfortunately, guys, it's the recombinator. And how you're gonna recombinate these is you're gonna alteration spam for one of 3 modifiers. So you're gonna go for mana first of all. Let's remove this. You're gonna roll with mana. Then you're gonna roll for chaos damage. And then finally, you're gonna roll for damage over time, which is a suffix. You want it to be generic damage over time multiplier because later on you want to be crafting for chaos damage over time multiplier. But the way that this works is you roll for each one of these modifiers and you want to go on to PoE.re. PoE.re allows you to click on the left side, it selects items. And then we can go through here and we can click the modifiers that we want. So first of all, select magic rarity. You want it to be magic. And then we want to be selecting the modifiers that I just mentioned. So I'm going to be clicking mana. I'm going to be clicking chaos damage. That's chaos gems. I appear to be blind. Chaos damage. And then damage over time multiplier. Still appear to be blind. There it is. All right, so now you have your regex here, right? And you want to copy that. Only match if prefix and suffix. I forgot which is which, so I'm just going to test it here. So imagine I'm going to roll my dagger, and it actually helps. This is a pretty big tip, actually. Having a few of these bases, it really, really, really helps having like a few of them, because that allows you to just chuck them into a tab. So if I were to chuck them here and just line them up, grab my alteration orbs, and then put the regex in there. It thinks I'm trying to craft a pneumatic dagger, so let me fix that real quick. We're going to select the side dagger right there. All right, cool. Now it's selected. And then we're just going to go through and select mana. Chaos damage, damage over time. Copy. Boom. And we got it. So it tells us now whether it has a modifier, right? Or whether we can aug this. And that's when you deselect only match if both prefix and suffix is fine. So let's copy that. We put that back in there. See how these are shining up? This means that you either have the modifier on the item or that you should aug. So in this situation now we have this, like, we can alt and it augs. You can see that it augs like that. And then we'll just go through and make them all light up again like this. When you mouse over, you can see the modifiers on them. I just rolled merciless. This is like insane, by the way. So yeah, so you can see that we didn't hit any of the modifiers T1. So we're just gonna aug them all in hopes of getting dot multi, and then you just continue doing that until you get your modifiers. It's better to like actually look at your items before you aug them. The importance of that is because if you do actually end up rolling one of the modifiers that you do want and you aug, you have to actually annul it before putting in the recomb. But yeah, you essentially do that until you have isolated bases, like a singular dagger with T1 mana, a dagger with T1 multi, and a dagger with T1 chaos. Now, for the pneumatic version of the dagger, the exact same applies. However, you will select T1 fire, T1 cold, T1 lightning, and then T1 chaos as well, and then T1 damage over time multiplier. The reason for this is because you want to have a dagger, like you want to have, essentially you want to end up with T1 chaos, T1 elemental, and T1 damage over time multiplier. Rolling for 2 T1 elemental modifiers is better, but it will make this substantially harder for you to actually make the dagger. So I suggest you actually like settle for T1 chaos instead. About 20% worse than all of these other ones, but it's so much, like, it saves your mental basically. Otherwise you're gonna go crazy. But the idea is that you merge T1 chaos damage with damage over time multiplier, and you can put a craft on both the prefix and suffix to save a bit of dust and gold when you recomb them. Then you want to have a prefix and suffix of it's going to look like this, and then you're going to try to merge that with the elemental damage. So with like T1 lightning damage, T1 fire damage, or T1 cold damage, you're going to put that in the recomb, just a one prefix and then a prefix suffix, and then just without a craft specifically. So like you don't want to craft on any of those at this stage. And then you're just kind of hoping that it rolls the 3 modifiers so that you can multi-mod it off of that. Yeah, to get your prefix suffix like this, it's a 50-50, and I believe it's like a 1 in 4 to get to get the triple merge. Whereas for the mana variant, you will do the same, where you roll T1 chaos, T1 down multi, and you will merge these with a T1 mana, and then you end up with the triple, with the 2P1S as we say. That looks like this. And that is pretty much how you craft your daggers. For the rest of the gear, in the planner specifically, so if you go back into the planner here, we have Genesis trees. So I made Genesis trees for the body armor, for the gloves, for the boots, for the helmet, amulet, and rings, and that kind of stuff. But this is specifically for the non-mana variant of the build. So you will see here that on many of these, I will be reducing mana modifiers. For the body armor, I reduced life modifiers. I think it's way more important to reduce life modifiers. Mana will sort of naturally roll on body armor, since it's the most common sort of modifier outside of life. But on the others, so for example, like gloves, I do reduce mana modifiers. But if you want to craft for mana, obviously you don't want to do that. So you will just go and click something else, or just remove it all altogether. So that's kind of like the only difference between the mana and the non-mana variant of the gear, is that on the non-mana variant of the gear, you obviously do not want to be reducing mana modifiers. So you can find all of those Genesis trees in the planner as well. I believe that is pretty much it. So if you guys are looking for a league starter right now, I very, very highly recommend Mamba. It's been one of the best league starters I've ever played in this game. It's been exceptionally fun, outside of maybe the first few fortresses. But as soon as I got like Sion's ambition on my amulet, it started being kind of doable. And especially like since after the nerf to the fortresses, like now it's just so easy, right? Like you get so many power-ups, you can just basically plow through it and it's no problem. So join us in the Mamba cold, boys, because I guarantee you're gonna have fun. So if you're looking for like a melee build that is tanky, that is very powerful, and that is poison, I suppose, then look no further, boys. This is the one. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if I forgot about something about the build, or you want me to make a specific video about anything, you know, just let me know. If there's a video you guys feel like I should make, or if you feel like there's any information that I've missed or something like that, I would appreciate the feedback, as yeah, I'm just keen on maybe teaching you guys, or potentially showing you guys cool things. Oh, I want to show you one last thing. Abuse PoB. So you know the PoB that I made with all of the variants and stuff like that, that is linked to this build. You can find that right here, by the way, the PoB link, as well as in the guide. So if you go to here to the loadouts, just a very quick one. So let's select the Mamba PoB. So let's go Mana Mamba. You can search for crazy ass jewels. So if I'm to click here at the top, trade for these items, and then we go for the socket find best, you can execute and it calculates the mod weights, which looks at like how much DPS each stat gives you. We put that into trade. Then it's going to generate a very advanced search. But I need mana and life. So I'm going to go for life maximum. I'm going to go for mana maximum. Then we need the percent. So we need these, but we also want the others. So what I'll do now is I'll search and I'll click the sum. Now it shows me the best jewels for my build, hands down, no question. So these jewels here are basically going to be, yeah, the best jewels that you can buy for the build in the game. And you can make some pretty advanced and interesting searches like this. And you can do that as well for like the rings and that kind of stuff. So it's very, very good at generating stat weights for your build, for you guys to find some pretty OP stuff. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Appreciate you.